What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about OnyxCoin today. It is the 7th day of November, and here we are at about $0.00646 with 8 hours and 41 minutes left in the day. We're just moving sideways right now. We're not really doing too much consolidating and waiting to see if we can confirm this as a low. Is this the low? Are we going to prevail and move higher, or do we have lower to go? And I have to admit, these wimpy reactions we've had over the past couple of days are not impressive. I don't like that we're moving up here and just finding resistance at a prior area of support. I'd rather that we had a very sharp reaction, a very impulsive reaction from here, like we typically do at our low points to validate that this is the low, right? Even here at this low, we had a better reaction than what we're getting now. This could imply that we have lower to go. Could doesn't mean that it does, but it could. We look at the weekly time frame. And as far as finding a low goes, we're not really in an area that makes too much sense. Here, we did find some resistance before. I wonder if on a daily time frame, because we've just looked at this on a weekly time frame. Let's look at a daily. Here, we're finding support. I mean, it's kind of an area that makes sense, right? Prior resistance here, prior support there. But again, from this line here where the resistance is, or maybe even this line here where the resistance is, the top line is the line that we actually found support at, where the other two lines are where the price was prior that we could find support now. So it is completely possible. It's a very viable thought that OnyxCoin does have lower to go. And how much lower would that be from here? That's about anything from a 16% to a 20% drop, 21% drop. And that's very possible. We could see that, and hopefully if that happens, if not when, but if that happens, we get a reaction like this where we dip down, we come back up in the same day, and then we're ripping and running in no time, right? Something like that would have to happen. Not have to, but ideally that's what would happen. If we're looking at this through the scope of a Fibonacci retracement from our all-time low to the cycle high, we did bounce right off the 0.5. It's perfect right there. And a lot of cryptos this cycle have actually shown some significance at the 0.5 as well. So that does give me hope that we could be finding support here and then moving up higher. We look at the others chart. This is the average altcoin right here, right? The average altcoin chart. The others chart looks like it wants to bounce here at the 40. We've bounced here before. We've actually found support here before. We have gone lower, and this is typically the line that holds. I'm hoping that the average altcoin, that the others chart doesn't go down to this level in the RSI, because if it does, that likely implies that the average coin in the market will have a, let's see, what kind of drop are we thinking? Something on the lines of a 20% drop as well. If that happens, OnyxCoin would definitely drop down to these areas to find support at prior resistance. But on the bright side, if the average altcoin's moving down and OnyxCoin's moving down with it, that's good. We'd rather see that than the average altcoin move up and OnyxCoin be the only one that's getting left behind. If everything's moving down at once, I mean, that's no fun. We're not making gains there. But at least we know that there's not really anything wrong with our coin. It's more just the market health as a whole that's the problem. But if we're looking at this here from a low to a high, the 0.5 is definitely a good area to count on. Again, altcoins have found support and resistance at their 0.5 really throughout this whole cycle at various points. You don't typically find support or significance at the 0.5, but literally since 2023, various coins, Bitcoin itself, have been finding significance at this level. So there's something to lean on there. We look at XCN BTC. XCN BTC on KuCoin here. We're finding support right at prior resistance zones here, right? If this was the USD chart, we'd be flipping out, man, because this is a perfect area to find support. Not only that, we take a low here to a high. You wicked just below the 1414, and now you look to be setting up to close above it. This is a classic signal that you are finding support at the 1414. Typically, you do wick just below there and then close above, and we should see some reverberations back to the upside here. Just on that extension alone, there's some significance on that fib for support. But then also, if we take the all-time low of this chart to this relative high here, we're also tipping the golden ratio. The 618 itself literally tipped it for support alongside with this prior area of resistance. I think this chart might be telling us the truth, the hidden truth behind what this chart is saying here, is that we are at a point to bounce. I really do think that we are at a point to bounce. And the question is not, do we bounce here or don't we bounce here? The question really is, how do we bounce? Do we just come up and we form a lower high and then we're going lower? Or is this the move that breaks us out? Do we find support at the 0.5 and then find resistance at the 382? If so, we're coming back down to the golden ratio. That's all the way down at 0035 to 0025. Do we bounce here and then on a weekly basis close above the 382? Do we consolidate whatever and break out? Do we just rip through the roof like we normally do with these moves? you know, if we can get above this 382, that really does help validate the idea that this is the low. So right now, all eyes are on that 1 cent area. It's vital that XCN gets up above 1 cent, because if it can do that, again, the probability that this is the low really goes up, especially whenever we compare it to the BTC chart. I think that this might be the secret sauce. We'll see if it is. We'll see if it is. This chart can absolutely go low, go lower. It absolutely can. But again, we look at the weekly time frame on the MACD, on the BTC chart, and we have very severe bullish divergence being built here on the weekly MACD. Okay, dating back all the way here to our prices in June. Bullish divergence on the stochastics as well, and the RSI is at the same place that it was the last couple times that it bounced as well. So definitely some optimism here. Definitely reasons to believe that we find support here. And if we find support versus Bitcoin, if OnyxCoin is growing versus Bitcoin, I doubt it's because Bitcoin's dropping faster than OnyxCoin, right? The only way that this chart can move up, the XCN BTC chart, the only way that this chart can move up is if Bitcoin drops faster than OnyxCoin, which again I doubt, or XCN moves up faster than Bitcoin, which that's more my expectation. So being at a point here to bounce tells me Bitcoin might be moving up, OnyxCoin might be moving up, but again, XCN will move up at a faster pace. We'll see. With that being said, though, today Bitcoin is down 0.6%, OnyxCoin is up 1.4%, so maybe they do move down together and Bitcoin does move down faster. I highly doubt that happens, though. It's more of a bad joke. Looking at this on the short-term stuff, looking at the 1 hour time frame here, zooming in, it's on the US dollar chart. Looking at this here, we are consolidating. We do have higher lows, which is nice to see. The RSI is neutral, widely neutral with a bearish tilt to it, but neutral. 35 minutes left in this 1 hour. It looks like we're finding some resistance here, but there's 35 minutes left. We could absolutely come back up and close it green, so I'm not going to base my thoughts of where we're going off of this 1 hour in itself. The stochastics are at a point to reject. The MACD is at a point to reject as well. And you're building bullish momentum. I want to be bullish on these indicators, but it's hard to be when the stochastics look like it's finding resistance at the 50. The RSI looks like it's finding resistance at the 50. You're not getting overbought. You're getting oversold plenty. You do kind of have this upward sloping posture, though, don't you? Which is nice in itself. That does make me think that we can move higher. I don't know. Time will tell. Let's give some if-then statements. How about that? If, oh man, this actually does look good, I have to say. But if we can maintain prices above $0.0626, then we're going to be moving higher. If a 1 hour time frame or higher time frame closes below $0.0626, then we're going lower. Okay, and how much lower are we going to go? We're probably going to go down to 0.0527 to 0.0480. At the very best, we'd find some kind of double bottom or slightly lower low, something like that. Okay, so we don't want to close a 1 hour time frame or higher time frame below 0.00626. Okay, you can go below there. That wouldn't be ideal, but you can go below there, but just close above it. Okay. And look at that, the 1 hour is reversing here. So again, 33 minutes left. A lot can happen. By the end of this hour, we could be all the way up here. You don't know. OnyxCoin moves pretty damn fast when it wants to. I have hope. I like that we came down to the golden ratio here, and I like that we came up and we found support on it here. This actually looks productive. The thing to do would be to validate this as a low, to validate the idea that we are moving up higher. The thing to do would be hold that golden ratio for support, continue to do so as you are now, and then close above the 236, which is all the way up at about 0.007. If you can close above 007 on a 1 hour time frame or higher, we are likely moving back toward 1 cent. Okay, we likely validate this as a low. Is it the low or is it a momentary low? That remains to be seen still, but we would at least be breaking out of this range and probably progressing back toward 1 cent, which is a good thing. We need that. 4 hour time frame here. Looking at this, the RSI is building some positive structure, I suppose. You've got higher lows here and you've got some higher highs here, relatively speaking, but it's very ugly. It's a very ugly RSI overall, very, very bearish RSI. Typically, we do find resistance here or a little bit higher. We're not really at that point yet, but we could be rejecting the 50. I like to think that if you reject the 50 and then you find support at the 40, you typically do break through it. But again, just because we break through the 50 doesn't mean we're out of the woods. We still have that whole zone where we typically do find resistance. So I'm hoping that over the coming days, I'm hoping the weekend is kind to us, at least, right? It is Friday today. I'm hoping the weekend is kind to us. It doesn't have to be a green weekend, but just don't be terribly bearish. And then I'm hoping that next week, Monday going into next week, we do hit this overbought zone and show some signs of strength instead of weakness. Hopes don't get us there though. We got to see results. Looking at the stochastics do seem a bit odd. They seem a bit odd. They do seem like they're going to bounce off this oversold zone and continue higher. I don't know. I don't like this rejection off the 50, but I do like the rejection off the oversold zone there. So we'll see. We'll have to let this develop. Hopefully, again, over the coming days, the weekend is kind to us. The MACD does suggest that we have higher to go, but overall, it is very bearish. So I'm not really going to weigh in on that too much. You know, finding support at prior lows there, that's nice in itself. You know, we found support at this zone in the oscillators. We had a nice reaction, a lot more positive of a reaction than we're having now, and then we just moved sideways. The MACD, I think, is kind of useless right now, especially when we're in these boring sideways kind of moments. You know, we had bullish divergence, and it didn't work out. Literally, the MACD is useless. It's so... The fact that it was bullish might have been a bearish sign. The fact that it's bearish here, maybe that's a bullish sign. I don't know. Daily time frame. Looking at this, the RSI is at the weakest levels, literally the weakest levels that we've seen, dating back to June of 2023. In June of 2023, that was our little low right before the all-time lows actually came in there. So we had a very positive reaction here. Actually, what kind of move was that from a low to a high? Just for reference sake, right? The last time we were this low in the RSI or lower, we saw what was a 72% move in June 13th to June 21st, so in about a week. 72% move. Could we get that now? I don't know. It's possible, right? Again, the last time we were this oversold or lower was here. Maybe this area here is something that we can compare it to, where we just moved sideways, grinded out, and then we moved up. I definitely believe that we're at a low point, but could we go a little bit lower? That's just the question to answer here again. And we're not validated that this is the low until we're back above 1 cent. And even then, there's still some possible ways to contest that. 1 cent would be exciting. Getting above this point here where we found resistance and support at about 1.4 cents would be exciting. And that might be the most exciting point to look forward to, because once you're above that, I think at that point it's easy to say that we are in fact breaking out of this downtrend overall, and that would cement this as the low. If you want to wait for a higher high, you can, but I think that there's just key signals before then that'll give us reasons to believe that we are on the up and up there. But really, what we're looking for most is positive reaction on the XCN BTC chart. We're looking for the others chart to start shaping up, for the crypto markets as a whole to start moving. XCN does its best work when just like any altcoin, when everything's moving, whenever everything's flowing, that's whenever it does its best work. It's hard to move up whenever the rest of the market is moving down. I don't really have anything else that I want to say. Oh, right. This one here on the weekly time frame. We do have bullish divergence on the weekly MACD. Actually, we do and we don't, right? We do, but this week here, building bearish momentum like this after you were decaying in bearish momentum and building some bullish divergence, I would prefer it, and who cares what I prefer? It doesn't have to happen this way, but I would prefer it if over the next 2 days and 8.5 hours, if we could pull up just enough. We don't have to close this week green, but close it just red enough where this does not build past last week's readings on the MACD. And maybe I misspoke there. This bar, and it's kind of technical, but it's technical analysis. This bar right here can close above or below this bar right here, but I don't want to see it close below this bar. Does that make sense? So it can all be in this kind of area here, but it's it's very, very technical. But as long as we're not building bearish momentum, I think we're good. We could build bearish momentum and still have bullish divergence to some degree, I suppose, but I just think it would look better. That's all I'm trying to say, is if by the end of this week, in the next 2 days and 8.5 hours, if we could close back above 0075, 0.0075, that's a good goal to have. I think that's what would do it. I think that would do it, but maybe we have to close higher. I mean, close the week green, go for it. But we're down 19.9%. I'm not asking for a small order here, but something over the next couple of days that shows a little bit of life would be very encouraging. Overall, weekly RSI is right at this point to bounce, same areas that we were at last time. Stochastics are very oversold. They're ready to bounce at any moment now. We just we got to show some life before we do. I got nothing else for you guys. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. As far as lower prospects go, where could we go as far as our lows are, right? We could go, if we were to go lower from here, the only logical area to really consider first would be about 00352 or lower, okay? If we were to go lower from here, if we do break out of this zone, it's stupendously unlikely that this area holds a support. It's dramatically more likely that we would go all the way down to the golden ratio. OnyxCoin does like to go near the golden ratio and find support just above it, and that checks out because we have prior resistance points here, so be aware of that as well. But something below 004 would likely be an area to find support if this area doesn't hold. And again, we're leaning on the XCN BTC chart and the others chart to hopefully prevail this as a low. Anyways, I got nothing else. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next one, all right? Bye-bye.